Our Verified team is working nonstop to fact check your questions about COVID-19 and a vaccine. This evening, we look into a claim about what could happen to those who refuse the vaccine. Here's Evan Kozloff.
Social media could be a breeding ground for misinformation, and the Verified team is here to go straight to the source to find out what's real and what's not. Today we're talking about posts like this. Quote, Biden's COVID-19 task force recommends withholding food stamps from vaccine refusers. So let's verify. Are these claims true? We started by taking a closer look at the online posts. Many linked to an article on a website called thetruthaboutvaccines.com. The same article has been shared on many other websites as well. The post references someone named Dr. Luciano Borio. Back in November, the Biden-Harris transition team announced that she would be on a COVID-19 advisory board. The article claims that Borio, quote, says that people who refuse to be vaccinated should be deprived of food stamps and rent assistance. It then links to this July report as supposed proof. It was put together by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security and Texas State University. Borio is listed as one of the 23 members of the working group tasked with mapping out the best way to disperse a vaccine. But the claim that food stamps would be withheld for anybody who refused a vaccine is just not in the report. Here's what the report does say about food stamps. The working group recommended that public health agencies, quote, bundle vaccination with other safety net services so people could access the vaccine more easily, saying this, quote, could be a way to build trust and streamline vaccine provision. We also reached out to the two chairs of this working group, Monica Shaxbana from the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security and Emily Brunson from Texas State University. They confirmed that they were recommending that vaccines be available alongside other services, but that, quote, we do not advocate that such social supports ever be withheld in connection with an individual's vaccination status. So this claim is false. The working group did not suggest that services like food stamps would be withheld if people refuse a vaccine. With your Verify, I'm Evan Kozloff.
If there is something you want us to verify, just go ahead and reach out to us. Email us at verify@khou.com.